Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
The following is independently produced programming. The views and opinions expressed are those of the producers and do not reflect the views and opinions of Falls Area Community Television, our staff, or board of directors.
Secrets in the shadows, lost and found. Truth in every echo, loud and clear. Keep on with the long road, no more fear. In the halls of power, whispers grow. Every secret cracked beneath the undertone. Honor stories hidden in the glass. On this long road, in the truth we trust.
Hello, this is Chris Roberts, the host of The Long Road. My first topic of the day is going to be Christian values. We are told by many people on both sides, but more on the conservative side. So we have conservative politicians, conservative podcasters, conservative think tanks, conservative ministers and pastors, who say over and over again that the United States was formed on the basis of Christian Judeo ethics. And they say it over and over again. Well, there's an extremely amount of hypocrisy. Because one, a lot of the founding fathers weren't really Christian. They did not believe in a number of the Christian tenets. A lot of them didn't believe in the teaching of the Catholic Church. Matter of fact, England, over the past couple of centuries before the United States was born, was fighting over Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, John. They all keep going back and forth. Who's going to be the Catholic one and who is going to be the Protestant one? France, you got the Huguenots, goes back and forth. And when you go and look in Europe, where did the Jewish tradition reside? Up to that time, the Catholic Church had very little regard for Jewish people. And even I grew up as a fundamental Methodist, and we were taught to always question, but we were taught over and over again that the Jewish leaders, the Jewish religious leaders had the choice: Jesus Christ or the criminal. And they choose to save the life of the criminal over Jesus Christ. So we were being taught that the Jews were the enemy because they okayed the killing of Jesus Christ. But you know what? I grow up later and everything and find out that, Jesus Christ wasn't a Catholic. He wasn't a Protestant. He was Jewish. So if you go by that context, the teaching of Jesus Christ, who was Jewish, then you could come up with saying, hey, United States was founded on Christian and Jewish principles. Even thought when we were getting ready for the foundation of the country, it was basically all based on white Anglo-Saxon Protestant men. Were you from England? Were you from Germany, Denmark? That area where English and Saxon are kind of German. It's, okay? So if we agree, for the sake of argument, that United States was formed on the basic of Catholic, traditional, Jewish principles and ethics. I'm saying let's agree on it for the sake of argument. Okay, and say the 10 Commandments are our principles that help develop our morals and our ethics. Okay? That's, like I said, the many of the politicians, church leaders, Baptist, Methodist, church leaders, think tanks, you name it. They'll go and say that's the foundation of our country, and we must return to the foundation of our country. Okay, it's kind of like Make America Great Again. Show me the place and time that you want to return to, and show me what you're willing to give up to return to that. But I go and say, you know what? Let me take an evaluation of this, and I'll just use the 10 Commandments. Plain and simple, 10 Commandments. Okay? Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not steal. Oh, let's see. We have the Attorney General of Texas who wants to become a U.S. Senator. He's ultra-conservative, and he strongly believes in the Christian Judeo morals and ethics. Well, he's getting in trouble for lying. There's a whole bunch of things. So we look at Mr. Paxton, and Mr. Paxton, why did you violate so many 10 Commandments? We can look at Donald Trump. Why did you violate so many of the 10 Commandments? And we can go over a number of basically countless politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, that have violated the 10 Commandments. Some of them, the majority of the 10 Commandments. Okay? But no one's perfect. Okay? John Kennedy was a really good president. But thou shalt not commit adultery. He was a frequent flyer when it came to committing adultery. Okay? But John Kennedy never said that we need to return to the Christian Judeo foundation of the country. Because again, no one seems to be able to say what are those principles that this country was founded on. When people didn't lie, people didn't steal, people didn't kill. Let's see. Andrew Carnegie, John Rockefeller, Mellon, a lot of the train owners, the robber barons. They, to be able to grow, they lied, they stole, they cheated, they even killed people. Okay? We have religious leaders. Jerry Falwell. No, not Jerry Falwell. Is it? Tammy Baker's husband on Tammy Baker's husband had to go to jail. The the one on the 700th Club, he used some of the things to get out of going to war and stuff. Swagger, who got caught with prostitutes in New Orleans, and he stated he was just worshiping with the prostitutes and trying to save their souls. We've got a minister of a big mega church. I think he's down in Texas, and he had a pendulum for 12 and 13-year-olds. And then he went to those, to the followers and say, please forgive me, I was weak, I was tempted by the devil. And I can make the list go on and on. But you know what was with all these people? They were all hypocrites. They came in and said, okay, my fellow Americans, this is the rules I want you to follow. This is the way we want to change our government. We want to change our government to back in the days of when the government was founded on these traditions. Well, the government wasn't founded. That was one of those nice talking points, selling points, but it wasn't a reality. Well, for example, if I'm the Scandinavians living up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and I am the Germans that living in Pennsylvania, and I'm going all around. If I'm the Mexicans who are living in Arizona, California, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Colorado, and even up to Wyoming, that used to be part of Mexico before the War of 1848. So, look at the Catholics that were living in Maryland, which was founded by Lord Baltimore to bring Catholics out of England into the United States. There was no one America. There was no one America. In a lot of ways, America was 13, before we became the United States, was 13 different countries with 13 different ideologies, ways of believing, religion, all this other kind of stuff. And what they did is they got together and they realized none of them would have the strength to fight off England if England decided to come after them one by one. And then they got together. And that's the reason they called it United States of America. So basically, there was a lot of compromising going on to form the country. As soon as New Hampshire was the number 9 to sign off on it, plain and simple, United States became a country. And just think, United States of America. So you've got these states that decided to come together, unite, and form America. Okay? So we have so many people in leadership positions who are being total hypocrites. They want to go back to a time that never was. And then they want to institute that time that never was to today to make sure you and I and all of us fall under that standard, which they will design, which they will tell us what it should be and what it is. They will tell us if we question, we really don't know the facts. But they will tell us, because of their positions and their responsibilities, we, the people, really don't have the intellect or the authority to question them. And for example, let's just think of Epstein, okay? There are a lot of people that were going to Epstein's private island that wanted to set a standard of ethics and morality on the American people, but they were never, ever going to subject themselves to that standard or those standards. So when you hear a politician or someone who thinks, well, I'm pretty important, I'm knowledgeable, I'm an expert in these things, ask them to explain when that time and place in history happened. Where in Philadelphia did they create a piece of paper based on Christian Judeo standards? We have a Bill of Rights that says the government can't create or designate one religion as the religion of the country, because 13 different states wanted to ensure that their religion and which form it was going to be protected from the federal government. And so they're going to be pretty tough to come up with an answer. And even if they come up with an answer, before you think about accepting that answer, remember, when it comes to an expert, the number one goal of an expert is to continue to convince people he or she is an expert in what they're talking about and that you should never ever question them. Experts is someone who's come up with a belief and will do everything to defend that belief. Why? Because they get rewarded for being an expert. And so, yes, you ask. And then when they come up with it, you go and say, hey, tell me when it happened. 2, are there any alternate possibilities? And I go, there is an alternate possibility. And the last thing you ask them is, have you ever been wrong? 3 simple questions. Show me. Are there any more possibilities? And have you ever been wrong? You should be asking that of your politicians. You should be asking that of your religious leaders. You should be asking of that anybody who claims to be an expert. You should be asking that of your media, because the media is not in here to sell or teach you stuff. They're in here to make money. So that's what you should be doing. Now, the topic of the day is Mr. Trump just sent 400 National Guard people from the state of Texas to Illinois to help ICE. He wants to send more to Portland, Oregon. Okay. If anybody's on Facebook or anybody wants to go Google, there's a picture of the Texas National Guard getting off vehicles. As someone who's been in the military, spent over 21 years in the military, that picture is unbelievably embarrassing. That lead National Guardman, I hope he is ridiculed for the rest of his life. That is an unbelievably awful picture. One, he's morbidly obese. Okay, I'm surprised they were able to find a uniform for him. I think his waist was closer to 50 than it was to 40. The other 2 individuals on both sides of him, they were heavyweights too. Okay? They were. Second thing, my staff NCO, if that was one of my troops, even if he was fit and trim, he would have been yanked out so quick by the back of the neck, he wouldn't even realize what happened. He would have been twisted into a pretzel. Because if you take a quick look at his weapon, he doesn't have his weapon on his shoulder. He has part of his weapon laying over his bag. And that weapon is pointing directly towards the other National Guard member. And the individual's hand is over the trigger mount. No. In the Marine Corps, we said over and over again to people, if you point that weapon at me, it better be to kill me, and you better not miss, because I won't miss. We take it extremely seriously. You don't point your weapon at someone else unless you intend to kill him. Okay, so when I look at that individual, and that individual is supposed to be able to go, quote unquote, defend ICE facilities, that's the type of individual that can cause an accident, can cause an unnecessary shooting, an unintended shooting. He's too fat to do anything without his weapon. And second, he doesn't hold his weapon properly. Okay. So, he's all over Facebook. He's probably being a laughing stock back in Texas. And his kids going to school, people would say, hey, is that your daddy? That's your daddy? And poor kids that get laughed at. Okay. In Chicago, ICE is making its move. ICE has repelled off choppers onto roofs. They're arresting people. They're coming in. They're bringing armored vehicles. Okay. What happens is, when you give people the opportunity to cover their face and weapons, some of the worst things will come out of the worst people. It only takes like 10% of the ICE people to be troublemakers. These people are coming in, they're not as trained, they're smashing windows, they're dragging people. Oh, okay, you have people have an appointment with immigration. They go to the appointment to immigration, and before they get into the building or right after they get right out of the building, they drag them away. Wait a minute, what is the person doing wrong? The person was making their appointment with immigration. And if the person has an appointment with immigration, they're not going to be one of these terrorist groups that the president has designated, because that means they would have came in the country illegally, and once they got vetted, there's no way they were going to be able to get a green card or apply for a green card or apply for a work permit. And so a lot of things Yes, round up round up the criminal immigrants first. Round all of them up wherever they are. In Blue City, Red City, in the middle of the desert, go after them. But no, we have a goal. We want 3,000 a day. Okay? Oh, yeah, you've been living in the country for 40 years. Bingo, you're out. Bingo, you're out. You're out. You're out. So we're just talking about numbers. We're not talking about criminals, because if they say there's 500,000 to 600,000 criminals, but they want to get rid of 11 million unauthorized aliens, illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call them, why are you going after young people? You're going after elderly people. You don't seem to be going after and taking care of a lot of these people that you want to get rid of and you said you get rid of. So if you're looking at 300,000, 3,000 a day, so that's talking about $1 million a year. So basically, right now we're talking about, say, taking 11 years to get rid of every single immigrant, illegal immigrant, as long as they don't come in, no more come into the country. And, but I would think, Mr. President, you're on your last term in office. At this current rate, you can only get rid of 3 million. And wouldn't you rather get rid of the 600,000 dangerous illegal immigrants first than going just for total numbers? Okay. We have, and nowadays, we have cell phones. We have body cameras. We have the ability to video basically everything and get multiple angles of everything. And what happens is when a person puts a mask on and they go off the deep end, they don't know when to stop. They don't go and think, holy crap, someone's filming this. And so the thing is saying, well, they're impeding an investigation. You're doing this or you're doing that. That really sounds good, but it's amazing how many people are getting arrested by ICE for doing this, and then they're getting released because ICE presses no charges. Or they come up and say, hey, oh, this video is showing it this way. What is happening is the American people are getting fed up. And we're not just talking about ultra-liberal Democrats. We're talking about Democrats, moderate Democrats. We're talking about independents. We're talking about moderate Republicans. And we're even talking about now conservative religious leaders who are now going in and saying, what would Jesus do? Remember that old saying years back? Now they're coming in and saying, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus support this? So if Jesus wouldn't support this, how can I support this? And you know what's about this? These are not religious groups that were making money off the immigrants that were coming in under the Biden years. And, you know, before we go about the Chicago Teachers Union, isn't it kind of ironic that Governor Abbott of Texas, after busing thousands and thousands of immigrants to Illinois, Chicago, is sending Texas National Guard to Chicago to help round up a lot of the illegal immigrants, migrants that he sent to Chicago in the first place. Who would have thunk that? The Chicago Teachers Union has decided, you know what? We're not going to impede anything ICE does, but we're not going to do anything to support ICE. Okay, impeding could be considered breaking the law. There's nothing legally says I have to support ICE. And things like changing is, for example, the Secretary of Homeland Security had to go pee really bad. And she decided that she was going to go into the state government building. They said, no. Members of ICE will not be allowed to use our facilities. If ICE has to go to the bathroom or whatever, they have to go to the ICE facility. That's what the National Guard are being sent to. The National Guard is being sent to protect the ICE facility. But they're going, well, we don't want to have to go all the way back. If we have to go back, it's like, hey, we do not have to let you in here. You have no access to our facilities. Okay? Kat, a member of the Chicago Teachers Union, says, meeting last week, and how the union is working with the Chicago public schools to create sanctuary teams to protect illegal aliens. And so, thanks to a campaign to educate them about something different, and so right now we got our rapid response network across the city, just like they have in LA now. At schools, we have protocols that actually our staff knows what to do if federal agents come to our school, and we know they're not allowed in without a criminal judicial warrant, which they rarely have. Okay? So what they do is like, oh, we think there may be 30 illegal alien kids here in this school. Okay? They come up to school and say, hey, we want to come in and we want to take these 30 kids away. Well, all the teachers in the Chicago school system had said, show us the warrant. Put your warrant on the door. Okay? They don't have a warrant, they can't come in. Go. That is not breaking the law. That is an example of using the law against them. That's an example of refusing to bow down to intimidation, power, and threatening actions. Okay? They got a rapid response group to warn illegal aliens in the city, including putting schools on lockdowns to prevent ICE from entering. Okay, if a school's on lockdown, no one enters, no one leaves, up until it's safe. So if we have shooter in the area or a suspect with a weapon, I think what's really key in this moment for our collaboration with, unfortunately, the many bosses and principals, but it's effective. It's keeping our kids safe. And then there's a lot of mutual aid and community defense, so that when ICE is spotted, right, schools may go on lockdown, but also people making sure that the kids get home. Well, what do you do when the kids get home and their parents are already gone? What do you do when the children are American citizens, their parents are not, and their parents are taken away? Where do the kids go? Do the kids go to foster care? Does the government ship the kids out of the country illegally? They're American citizens. Or did the government try to find relatives? But maybe the relatives don't want to be found because they're not legal residents either. And so we're walking kids home. We're walking blocks after the fact to let people know that ICE was in the area. We're letting people know how to record. CPS and CTU are actively cooperating. And so, again, teaching them how to record. And people, whether it's the teachers union, other religious organizations and stuff, who are not violating the law, but like I says, using videotape to protect people from violations of the law. Just because you want to arrest someone who violated the law doesn't give you the right to violate that law. The Chicago School District has, with the district and local elected officials, to remind parents that they will never share students' immigration status without a court order, or to allow federal agents in schools without a criminal judicial warrant. A warrant that must be signed by a judge. And it's extremely important. Do we have non-legal status children in Keene School? district? The chances are highly likely. How many? Don't know. Do we want to know? No, we don't want to know. We don't give out information which kid is getting free lunch, reduced lunch. We don't give out which kid is on special ed. We don't give out what kid is on homeless. And we don't give that information to the federal government unless we're forced to. And so what's happened, so the teachers union, the Chicago principal, Chicago Public Schools, the teachers union have worked to craft contingency plan to counter immigration enforcement that it offers tips for spotting ICE vehicles, a hotline to report agents and notify parents, and teams to escort students to children. Thought there are other protections for Chicago public school employees in the country illegally. And so, what about the people that are working illegally in the school system? Okay. Here in Chicago, we get a lot of report that Chicago police or state police are not ICE. And folks are technically barred from cooperating with ICE in that way. Many of the union tactics that thwart ICE are inspired by the Black Panther Party, she said, pointing to the duty to fight for freedom championed by the late revolutionary Black liberation leader. SHAK became the first woman listed on the FBI Most Wanted Terror list in 2013, 40 years after she was convicted of murder of a New York State trooper, where she escaped prison and fled to Cuba, and she died about 3 weeks ago. We look at the Black Panther Party as being really negative and stuff, but if you go and look at it, free lunches in the Chicago school system and others was one of the things that was done by the Black Panther Party. Again, it's kind of, look at some of the stuff that's really going on. Get out there and read. And you'll find out that everything is not the way we were taught. And if you have questions, go to the Library of Congress website, loc.gov, and type in whatever you want in, and you'll be plenty of books and articles concerning almost any subject you want. And you can get all different sides of it. Because you got to remember, there is no truth. We make the determination what we believe is truthful, and we search out information to back up our decision, no matter how wrong our decision is. Well, last week, the Secretary of War and President Trump had this big meeting of generals and admirals and senior enlisted. And basically the president and the secretary says, we do not want a Department of Defense. We want a Department of War. Okay, so when we have a Department of War, we become a nation of warriors. The only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: war fighting, preparing for war, preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit, not because we want war. No one here wants war. It is because we love peace. Okay. There's one thing, preparing for war and preparing to win because we want peace. Okay? But he goes and says his number one priority is war fighting. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace and they rightly expect us to deliver. Our number one job, of course, is to be strong so that we can prevent war in the first place. Peace through strength. As history teaches, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it. That's why pacifism is so naive and dangerous. It ignores human nature and it ignores human history. Either you protect your people and your sovereignty, or you will be subversive to something or someone. It's a truth as over as time. Okay, prevent wars. United States has gone to war for the past 20 plus years. It has been the most powerful country military since the 1990s, when the fall of the Soviet Union. We have sent trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. No country has invaded the United States. No country has defeated the United States. Well, the Taliban is not a country. The Taliban is a small group of fighters. The people in Syria, the people in Iraq. We haven't been able to defeat them. We haven't defeated ISIS. Okay, yeah, we went to war and invaded Libya, and look what happened. Okay? Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by violent precision and ferocity of the War Department. Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Iraq, Iran. President Trump says we have the strongest, most powerful, most lethal, most prepared military on the planet. That's it. Full stop. No one can touch us. No one is even close. Okay? But you're over here saying is, we got to get strong and we got to do this. But the president says we're the best on the planet. And no one can touch us. No one is even close. This is true largely because of the historic investments that he made in his first term, and we continue in this term. But, you know what? You can see this urgent moment, of course, requires more troops, more munitions, more drones, more Patriots, more submarines, more B-21 bombers. It requires more innovation, more AI and everything, and ahead of the curve, more cyber effects, and more counter USS, more space, more speed. America is the strongest, but we need to get stronger and quickly. So, under the big, beautiful bill, we're going to cut funding to Medicaid. We're going to put an end to the tax subsidies for American ACA or the Obamacare at the end of the year. You know why? So we can spend more money on a military that even the president admits is the most powerful on the planet, and no other country can even come close. So we're going to take all this stuff from the American people and we're going to pour more and more into the military. But the military hasn't won a war. And they say, well, we won in 1990. It wasn't just the United States. Look at all the countries around the world. England had troops there. France had troops there. Denmark, all these countries. It was a collaboration of most of the countries in the world. And we had outstanding leaders, Schwarzkopf, Powell, and we had Schwarzkopf who had no problem of putting his finger up to the Secretary of Defense, and saying, sir, I'm not launching the invasion until I know I can win. This is what I need to win, and when I get it, we're going. Once he got it, they went and they won in 4 days. We didn't win in 20 years in Afghanistan, and we didn't win Iraq in 11 years. So where's the Secretary of War coming from? What does he want to approve on?